Hello and welcome to the Acoustic Rock Basics lesson on how to play leads with major and minor scales. I'm Andrew DuBrock, contributing editor to Acoustic Guitar. Listen to any guitar solo in your music collection, like the ones in the Beatles' And Your Bird Can Sing, or the Allman Brothers Band's Jessica, and it's a good bet that it uses notes from a major scale. That's because the major scale is the foundation of Western music. And I don't mean country music. I'm talking about the music of Western civilization. Many guitar leads are built exclusively from the major scale, and almost everything else in Western music is based around variations on the major scale. For example, the next most important scale, the minor scale, is based on the major scale and is another big source for rock guitar leads. So let's look at how the major and minor scales are constructed and related, and play a few leads with these two blockbusters. We'll start with the granddaddy, the major scale. First, let's look at the anatomy of the major scale, because once you understand how it is put together, you'll be on the road to soloing like your favorite guitarists. Here are the 7 notes that make up the major scale, in this case, a G major scale. If you've explored my Acoustic Rock Basics lesson, Soloing with Pentatonic Scales, you'll notice that the major scale encompasses the major pentatonic and adds 2 more notes, the 4th and the 7th of the key. Like pentatonic scales, the patterns that make up major and minor scales can be found and repeated all over the fretboard. The starting note of the scale, in this case G, is called the root, and once you cycle through all 7 notes of the scale, it repeats. The 8th note of the scale is another root note. Scales are made up of half steps, the distance of 1 fret, for instance the 9th to the 10th fret, and whole steps, 2 frets, for instance, between the 10th fret and the 12th fret. However, we often play whole steps and half steps across the strings. For instance, when we're playing a whole step across the strings, most string pairs have 2 frets in between, like this. However, between the 2nd and 3rd strings, you'll only have 1 fret between your fingers. Scales are built by combining half steps and whole steps in a specific order. As you can see in the notation and tab for example 1, in a major scale these steps fall in the following order: whole, from the 10th fret of the 5th string to the 7th fret of the 4th string. Whole, from the 7th fret of the 4th string to the 9th fret of the 4th string. The next is a half step, from the 9th fret of the 4th string to the 10th fret of the 4th string. The next is a whole step, from the 10th fret of the 4th string to the 7th fret of the 3rd string. The next is another whole step, from the 7th fret of the 3rd string to the 9th fret of the 3rd string. And you have one more whole step, from the 9th fret of the 3rd string to the 7th fret of the 2nd string. And finally a half step, from the 7th fret of the 2nd string to the 8th fret of the 2nd string. And together that sounds like this. You can use this configuration to build a major scale starting on any note. Let's try C down at the 3rd fret. If you move up using the whole and half step major scale formula, you get a C major scale. Now let's go back to the G major scale. If you move up to the 7th position with your index finger at the 7th fret, you can cycle through the G major scale more than once by starting on the 3rd below the root and continuing up to the high 5th on the first string. Here's how that sounds, accenting the root notes. Practice the scale a few times and then try to play the melody to the traditional hymn, Simple Gifts, which uses this scale.